Most people believe that intelligence guarantees success, that if you're smart, educated, and capable, money will eventually follow. But reality tells a very different story. Some of the smartest people you know are still struggling financially, living paycheck to paycheck, stuck in jobs they hate, constantly stressed about money. Meanwhile, others with average intelligence are building wealth, creating freedom, and living life on their own terms. So what's going on here? Why do smart people stay broke? The answer lies in a hidden trap, one that feels logical, safe, and even responsible, but quietly keeps you stuck. The first part of this trap is what we can call the education illusion. Smart people are often rewarded early in life for following instructions. They go to school, get good grades, earn degrees, and are taught that this path leads to success. And while education is valuable, it also creates a dangerous mindset, the belief that knowledge alone is enough. But in the real world, money doesn't flow to knowledge. It flows to value, risk-taking, and execution. Many smart people spend years learning, analyzing, and preparing, but never actually doing. They wait until everything is perfect. They overthink every move. And in that hesitation, opportunities pass them by. Another hidden trap is the need to be right. Smart people are used to being correct. They build their identity around it. But wealth doesn't reward being right. It rewards being adaptable. In business, investing, and life, you will make mistakes. You will fail. And if your ego can't handle that, you'll avoid taking risks altogether. You'll stay in your comfort zone, choosing safety over growth. Meanwhile, those who are willing to be wrong, to experiment, and to learn quickly, they move forward faster. Then there's the overthinking loop. Smart minds are powerful, but they can also become prisons. Instead of taking action, smart people often analyze every possible outcome. They see risks others don't see. They imagine worst-case scenarios in vivid detail. And while this can be useful, it often leads to paralysis. They wait for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect opportunity, but perfection never comes. And while they're stuck thinking, others are out there doing, learning, failing, and improving. Another reason smart people stay broke is because they trade time for money in the most efficient way possible, but still trade time. They become doctors, engineers, consultants, high-paying professionals. But they're still in a system where income is tied to effort. If they stop working, the money stops. And no matter how much they earn, they rarely build true wealth because they don't focus on assets, things that make money while they sleep. They optimize income but ignore leverage. There's also a hidden fear of looking foolish. Smart people often have a reputation to protect. They don't want to start something new and fail publicly. They don't want to be beginners again. So they stick to what they're already good at, even if it's not making them wealthy. They choose comfort over growth, certainty over opportunity. And slowly, that comfort becomes a cage. Now here's the truth most people won't tell you. Intelligence can actually be a disadvantage when it comes to building wealth, if it's not paired with action, courage, and adaptability. Being smart makes you aware of risks, but it can also make you afraid of them. It gives you the ability to plan, but also the tendency to delay. And in a world where speed matters, hesitation is expensive. So how do you escape this hidden trap? How do you pivot? The first step is to shift from a learning mindset to an execution mindset. Instead of asking, "What else do I need to know?" start asking, "What can I do with what I already know?" Take imperfect action. Launch the idea. Start the project. Make the first move. Because clarity doesn't come from thinking, it comes from doing. The second step is to redefine failure. Stop seeing it as something to avoid and start seeing it as data. Every failed attempt teaches you something valuable. Every mistake moves you closer to success, if you're willing to learn from it. The goal is not to be right. The goal is to get better. Next, focus on leverage. Stop relying only on your time and effort to make money. Start building systems, assets, and income streams that work for you. This could be a business, investments, digital products, or content that earns over time. Wealth is not built by working harder. It's built by working smarter and leveraging your efforts. Another powerful shift is to simplify your thinking. You don't need a perfect plan. You need a direction and the willingness to adjust along the way. Action creates momentum, Momentum creates confidence, and confidence leads to bigger opportunities. Finally, detach your identity from being the smart one. Be willing to be a beginner again. Be willing to look foolish, because growth lives outside your comfort zone. The people who win are not the ones who know the most. They're the ones who act the most. At the end of the day, the hidden trap isn't your lack of intelligence. It's how you use it. If you keep overthinking, avoiding risk, and waiting for perfection, you'll stay stuck, no matter how smart you are. But if you can shift your mindset, take action, and embrace uncertainty, everything changes. So the real question is not, are you smart enough to succeed? Because once you make that pivot, intelligence becomes your greatest asset, not your biggest limitation point. One of the most powerful examples of this hidden trap shows up in everyday life. Think about the person who has spent years studying, collecting degrees, reading books, watching tutorials, but still hasn't started anything of their own. They know everything about business, but have never launched one. They understand investing, but have never invested. They've mastered theory, but avoided reality. And slowly, without realizing it, they've built a comfort zone made entirely of knowledge. It feels productive, but it produces nothing. Now compare that to someone else, someone less qualified on paper. They don't know everything. They make mistakes. They try things that don't work. But they start. They launch small projects. They take messy action. And because of that, they gain something far more valuable than knowledge: experience. Within a year, they've learned more from doing than most people learn in 5 years of thinking. And that experience compounds. It builds confidence, skill, and eventually income. This is where the real shift happens, the moment you realize that clarity is earned, not found. Most people wait for clarity before they act. But the truth is, clarity comes after action. When you take a step, even a small one, you get feedback. That feedback tells you what works and what doesn't. It shows you the next step. And step by step, the path becomes clearer. But if you never move, everything stays foggy. Another hidden pattern that keeps smart people stuck is the obsession with optimization. They want the best strategy, the most efficient plan, the perfect timing. They spend hours comparing options, researching tools, analyzing trends. But while they're optimizing, they're not executing. And in most cases, a simple plan executed today beats a perfect plan delayed forever. Speed matters more than perfection. Let's talk about money specifically. Many smart people focus on saving money, budgeting carefully, and avoiding financial mistakes. And while those habits are important, they're not enough to build wealth. You can't save your way to financial freedom. At some point, you have to shift your focus from cutting expenses to increasing income, and more importantly, building assets. Assets are what separate the wealthy from everyone else. They generate income without requiring your constant time and effort. And yet, many intelligent people ignore this completely because they're too focused on stability. There's also a deeper psychological layer to this. Smart people often tie their self-worth to their intelligence. Being the smart one becomes part of their identity. So when they enter a new field where they're not immediately good, it feels uncomfortable, even threatening. Instead of embracing the learning curve, they retreat to areas where they already feel competent. But growth doesn't happen there. Growth happens when you're willing to be average for a while, so you can eventually become exceptional. And then there's the environment factor. If you're surrounded by people who value safety over growth, stability over opportunity, you'll unconsciously adopt the same mindset. You'll start to believe that taking risks is dangerous, that failure is something to avoid, that playing it safe is the smartest choice. But the truth is, in today's world, playing it safe is often the riskiest move of all. Because while you're staying still, everything else is moving forward. So how do you practically pivot from this trap? Start by setting a simple rule for yourself: action over analysis. For every hour you spend learning, spend at least an equal amount of time doing. If you watch a video about business, take one step towards starting one. If you read about investing, put a small amount of money into the market. Turn knowledge into motion immediately. That's how you break the cycle. Next, adopt what you could call the imperfect launch mindset. Whatever idea you've been thinking about, start it before you feel ready. It won't be perfect. It might not even be good. But it will be real. And once it's real, you can improve it. Progress only happens in the real world, not in your head. Another powerful shift is to track results, not effort. Smart people often feel productive because they're busy thinking, planning, and preparing. But none of that matters if it doesn't lead to results. Start measuring what actually moves your life forward. Did you create something? Did you launch something? Did you earn something? Focus on outcomes, not activity. Also, learn to make faster decisions. You don't need 100% certainty to move forward. In most cases, 60 to 70% clarity is enough. Make the decision, take action, and adjust as you go. This speed alone will put you ahead of most people. And finally, build courage intentionally. Courage isn't something you're born with. It's something you develop. Every time you take a risk, every time you do something uncomfortable, you expand your capacity. What once felt scary becomes normal. And once it becomes normal, you're ready for the next level. At this point, you might be realizing something important. The problem was never your intelligence. In fact, your intelligence is a powerful tool. But like any tool, it depends on how you use it. If you use it to overthink, to avoid risk, to delay action, it becomes a limitation. But if you use it to learn quickly, adapt fast, and execute effectively, it becomes your greatest advantage. And that's the pivot. Not from being smart to being less smart, but from being passive to being active. From thinking to doing. From waiting to moving. Because in the end, wealth doesn't come from what you know. It comes from what you do with what you know. So don't fall into the hidden trap. Don't let your intelligence keep you stuck. Use it, act on it, build with it, and most importantly, start now. There's one more layer to this hidden trap that almost no one talks about, and it's subtle but incredibly powerful. It's the illusion of progress. Smart people are very good at staying busy. They read more, plan more, refine more, and prepare more. And because of that, they feel like they're moving forward. But in reality, they're standing still. Because motion is not the same as progress. Thinking is not the same as building. And preparation is not the same as execution. This is where many people lose years of their life. Not because they're lazy, but because they're trapped in productive procrastination. They're doing things that look useful on the surface, but never actually change their situation. And the longer this continues, the harder it becomes to break out of it. Because now, it's not just a habit, it's a lifestyle. At some point, you have to confront a difficult truth. If your actions don't change, your life won't change. It doesn't matter how smart you are, how much you know, or how much potential you have. Potential means nothing without execution. And the world doesn't reward potential, it rewards results. Now imagine two people starting at the same point. One spends the next year learning, planning, and waiting for the perfect moment. The other spends the next year taking action, making mistakes, adjusting, improving. After 12 months, the difference between them is massive. One has ideas. The other has experience, skills, connections, and income. And from that point on, the gap only gets bigger. This is why time is such an important factor. Every day you delay action, you're not just staying in the same place, you're falling behind. Because others are moving. Others are learning by doing. Others are building momentum. And momentum is one of the most powerful forces in success. Once it starts, it becomes easier to keep going. But the hardest part is starting. So let's make this practical, because information without action is exactly the trap we're trying to avoid. From today, shift your focus to daily execution. Not once a week. Not when you feel ready. Every single day, do something that moves you forward. It doesn't have to be big. It just has to be real. Create one piece of content. Reach out to one person. Learn one skill and apply it immediately. Small actions, repeated daily, create massive results over time. Also, start building a bias toward action. When you have an idea, act on it quickly. When you see an opportunity, explore it immediately. Train yourself to move fast, because speed creates opportunities that slow thinkers never even see. Another key is to reduce the noise. Smart people often consume too much information, too many opinions, too many strategies, too many voices. And that creates confusion. Instead of clarity, they feel overwhelmed. So simplify. Choose one path. Follow one strategy. Ignore the rest. You don't need more information. You need more execution. And remember this, you don't need to be the smartest person in the room to win. You just need to be the one who acts, the one who tries, the one who keeps going when things get uncomfortable. Because eventually everything compounds. Your skills compound. Your confidence compounds. Your results compound. And what once felt impossible becomes your new normal. Now, let's bring this full circle. The hidden trap was never obvious. It didn't look like failure. It looked like intelligence. It looked like preparation. It looked like responsibility. But underneath all of that, it was keeping you stuck. And the way out isn't complicated, but it's uncomfortable. You have to act before you feel ready. You have to risk being wrong. You have to leave your comfort zone. You have to move without certainty. But on the other side of that discomfort is growth, is freedom, is wealth. So here's the final thought. If you remember nothing else from this video, remember this. Your intelligence is not your problem. Your hesitation is. The moment you replace hesitation with action, everything changes. Start now. Move fast. Learn along the way.